Pesachim Daf Ayin Ches. Today's amazing email comes from Danny Gilbert from Boca Raton. It caused quite a stir. I received a number of emails, even a voice note, which I played during Shir. People are relating to this email. He says that when he was younger, he watched many movies, which some of them, Rahman al-Islan, are ingrained in his brain. And the other morning, when he was getting ready for work, a flash, a picture of one of the karbanis we showed in Shir came through in his mind. He was very, very happy. And I'm going to jump around there, and he says, I realized maybe those images cannot easily be erased, those images of the movies, but perhaps they can at least be displaced and replaced. One by one, Be'ez Hashem, from seeing each one of your hundreds of colorful charts and images. The more graphic, the better. In displacing our holy korban, in displaying our holy korbanos, each one you raise and present to the shir is displacing another image. I'm so glad to erase from my brain. Thank you for helping reconstruct the minds of Yidden from decades of damaging cultural exposure. Kind regards, Danny Gilbert, Boca Raton, Florida. Thank you, Danny. So yesterday we learned in the Mishnah that there are 5 korbanos that if Klal Yisrael is tamei, they could bring regardless, as long as they don't eat them. The Gemara tells us that this Mishnah cannot go according to Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi holds tuma d'chuya. It's only pushed off. If tumah is only pushed off, not completely replaced, then the tumah requires a kapara through the tzitz. The problem is the tzitz only gives you a kapara on the blood portion of the carbon and not the food portion of the carbon. And Rabbi Yossi holds you need a kapara on both. And Rabbi Yossi Mefurish says, "Ein tzitz meratza achilos." The tzitz doesn't come to give you a kapara on the food portion of the carbon. And if you're going to say perhaps Rabbi Yossi holds like Rabbi Eliezer, Eliezer holds all you need a kapara is for blood. You don't need for the food portion. So then why would he say Ein tzitz meratza achilos? Oh, maybe he's saying Ein tzitz meratza achilos to the point that the tzitz doesn't have the power to give a kapara to the achila, that it still remains a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. It didn't go into the rishus of a kayin. Or when it comes to pigul has to be pure. The animal has to be without any tumah. So the tzitz didn't do a ritzah for that. Well, that would be okay if it's talking about a carbon. The carbon has 2 portions. It has the meat and the blood. Or the omer. There's a part of the omer that goes in the mizbeach. Lechem upon him, part of it, the bezichim, the frankincense, the levina goes onto the mizbeach. When it comes to shtei lechem, there are no 2 parts. There's only one. So perhaps you'll say, Rabbi Yossi holds tumah hutra. There's a complete heter, and you don't need the tzitz at all. So you would fit into the Mishnah. The problem is that he holds that when it comes to Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur, we sprinkle the Kohen Gadol with the mei para from all the mei paras that are left over. 3 days, 7 days. Some say all 7 days, not on the 3rd and the 7th. The thing is, if you hold tumah hutra, then why would you have to sprinkle the Kohen Gadol? Hutra means it doesn't exist. The tumah doesn't exist. There's no reason to make a chumrah. We learned yesterday, Rabbi Yossi says, I completely see Rabbi Yeshua, and I completely rayani divrei Rabbi Elazar. In other words, I hold like Rabbi Yeshua that you need a kapara for the meat and the blood, and I see like Rabbi Elazar only for the blood. How could it be? How could you dance in 2 weddings? The Gemara uses a lashon. You're using 1 shtar for the leiv and the malva. It doesn't make any sense. So the Gemara says in the maskana, what it means is, I see Rabbi Eliezer when it comes to the eved, if the animal is lost or burned, and I hold like Rabbi Yeshua, l'chatchila, you should go try to give the kapara for both the blood and the meat. But when it comes to tumah, Rabbi Yeshua admits, since it's right here in front of us, b'di eved, it's also good to have just for the blood. But the Gemara says, don't learn the pshat. Royani doesn't literally mean I hold like. It just means, it makes a lot of sense that when Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Elazar were discussing in Masechtas Zvachim, they said, the same machlokes should apply also. Rabbi Yossi says the same machlokes should apply also in Menachas. And when they were learning Menachas, the same machlokes should apply in Zvachim. The problem is that the whole pasuk of Habasar v'Hadam, that whole machlokes is only in Zvachim. You don't have it by Menachas. Don't say that the machlokes Royani means I hold like Rabbi Eliezer when it comes to the community. You don't need a kapara on the meat. And I see like Rabbi Yeshua when it comes to a yachid. We already said that according to Rabbi Yossi, tumah d'chuya, not hutra b'tzibur. And Rabbi Yeshua even admits that by tzibur, you don't need a kapara on both the meat and the blood. It's enough meat, blood. Says the Mishnah, carbon pesach is different than all korbanos. The main thing of the carbon pesach is that you should be able to eat it. So if the meat part of the carbon pesach becomes tamei, even though the imurim are not tamei, you can put them on the mizbeach, you don't do zrikas adam, no more carbon pesach. But if the reverse is true, the imurim become tamei, so you can't put them on the mizbeach, but the basar is tar and you could eat it, then you do zrikas adam. By a regular carbon, it doesn't matter. Any part that's tar, that's good for zrikas hadam. Even if the basar is tamei, you still do zrikas hadam if the imurim are tar. Rav says, from the fact that the Mishnah says a lashon, you don't do zrikas adam, and the Mishnah doesn't use a lashon of pasul, that tells me that if a person went ahead and did zrikas adam against the halacha, b'di'evet he's yotze, he doesn't have to bring another carbon pesach. What about the fact that you must eat a carbon pesach? It goes according to Rabbi Nassan. Rabbi Nassan holds that it's a mitzvah to eat a carbon pesach, but it's not ma'akev. The Tanna Kama holds it's very much ma'akev. He has a hekesh between the menuyim, that you have to be registered to the group, and the achila, that it's very much ma'akev. Where do you see this, Rabbi Nassan? Rabbi Nassan holds that if one group comes along and they take up the entire carbon pesach, they gave out a kazais to each person, there's no more kazaisim left. Another group comes along and says they want to be part of the carbon pesach. Tanna Kama holds that group, since there's no more time left today, Erev Pesach, they must bring another carbon pesach on Pesach Sheni on Yudalad Iyar. Rabbi Nassan says no, since there's Zrikas Hadam, the second group is Yaitse. So you see that it's about the Zrikas Hadam and not about the Achila. Now there's another Rabbi Nassan, but that's not a good raya to us. He asks a contradiction in the pasuk. V'shachtu oisai. Shachtu is plural. Oisai is singular. How do many people shecht one animal? The answer is all of Klal Yisrael could be part of one animal, even though there's not enough kizeisim in one animal for all of Klal Yisrael. So perhaps you see here that it's not about eating. The Gemara says no, because it's very possible that since everybody's part of this group, then there's no person that's stronger, so to speak, than the other. So as soon as one leaves, the other one will come into his place and take his kazayis. So there is, in fact, a kazayis for each person, halachically. Now, if according to Reb Nassan that you don't need to physically eat the carbon pesach, so why does the Torah say ish lefi achlei? That's about eating. The Torah is telling us that the person has to be ro'yu to eat, has to have teeth, etc. But he has to be a person that's available to eat. If he doesn't eat, it's not ma'akid. The Brisa says that if during the shechita a person thought that he's going to shech this carbon pesach for people that have teeth, people that could eat, but by the zrika, the thought was for people that don't have teeth, the carbon pesach is kosher. The main part of eating oichlav is during the shechita. This could go even according to Rabbanan who hold that the achila is ma'akiv. They could hold. Why? Because a bad machshava of achila cannot happen during zrika, only during shechita. If a person was sick during the shechita and then he was healed by the zrika, or the opposite, he was healed by the shechita and got sick by the zrika, you don't do zrikas hadam, because you need that the person should be healthy from beginning to end. Now this could go even according to Reb Nassan who holds that you don't need a achila, but you need a gavra, you need somebody that's available, and he's not available. If a person shechted that carbon when he was tar, and then the owner became tamei, the kohen should make sure you shecht it, you do the zrika when he's with the hara, the kalim have to be tar, but the basar is not eaten. Rebbe Lazar argues on this concept that Reb Nassan holds that you have to have a gabra, the chazi, person that's available. He says no, according to Reb Nassan you don't need. So this goes according to Reb Nassan. Reb Yochanan says this could go even according to Rabbanan. And we're talking about the community. And they do the carbon even betuma. And so why is it not eaten? If the community does the carbon betuma, they get to eat it. We're concerned that the following year, people are going to make a mistake. They're not going to realize that the reason why they got to eat it is because they became tummy before the zrika. They're going to think that it happened, they became tummy after the zrika. And after the zrika, obviously, it's too late. You can't eat it, betuma. Have a wonderful day.